Hello, welcome back to the channel, and this time we're going to talk about factoring. And you may have heard this word in some different contexts, maybe solving certain types of equations, more advanced equations. Your teacher asks you to factor that equation, factor that expression, and we're going to get to those in further videos. But first, in a very basic level, factoring means to rewrite a certain expression, a certain mathematical sentence with multiplication instead of addition. So you have things added together, and well, I'm going to show an example to make it more clear. We've already gone through what algebraic expansion means, and you can check that series of videos here, but here what we're basically doing is the opposite process. And how do you do this opposite process? Well, on a very basic level, remember, to expand something, you did a distributive property. Let's take an example. Distributive property means you can multiply this number that's being multiplied outside by the 2 inside and get 8 plus 10, right? Works like that. And it's the exact same thing, equals 18. Exact same thing as if you had just added the things inside. You see 9 times 2 is also 18, right? But now, what if you had an expression like this, and you wanted to write it instead of added as some kind of multiplication? And the steps you do to find this is actually, first what I like to do is break down these numbers into like different multiplied values. So 8 is the same thing as 2 times 4, and 10 is the same thing as 2 times 5, right? And here we see that 2 is being multiplied in both of these terms, what we call them terms, both of these added numbers. And so what we can do is actually pull this 2 out, just like we distributed it inside. We can pull it out and rewrite this as 2 times 4 plus 5. This is exactly what we had in the beginning. So let's take an example where we start at something like this. What if we have 10 plus 6? 10 plus 6 is your expression. And you want to rewrite it as something in factored form. What you can do again is break down each of the numbers into multiplications. 10 is the same thing as 2 times 5. 6 is the same thing as 2 times 3. And here you see there is a repeated number that is multiplied in both of the added values. And here, again, what you can do is undistribute the 2, if that makes sense. So you rewrite this as 2 times 5 plus 3, which we can check gives us exactly the same thing. So 10 plus 6 is just 16, and here if you add what's inside, you get 2 times 8, which is also 16. So you see that we're not changing the value of anything, we're just rewriting in a different way that sometimes can be useful. But then you can look at me and ask me, why are we doing this? We just know that this value is 16. But well, what if we have a problem like this? That we have a variable. In this case, we can't just add these two values together because, well, one of them has an x, one of them doesn't. And yeah, there's no way to simplify that adding. But you can try to see if you can have it in a more factored form, or in a form that multiplies things instead of adding them. So here, we can actually follow the same steps that we did here. So 2x is the same thing as 2 times x, right? And 4 is the same thing as 2 times 2. And here, again, we see that we have a repeated multiplied value. And then what we do? Inverse distributive property to rewrite this as 2 times x plus 2. And you can see that if you were to distribute it, right, 2 times x, 2 times 2, you would just return to this. And again, we're not changing the value of this expression, we're just rewriting it in a way that can be more useful. And this will always depend on the case. But your teacher may also ask, oh, write this in more factored form. And then this is what he means, right? Try to bring something out into a multiplication. Here, we can do the same process. Well, what does x squared mean? X times x, correct? And 5x means 5 times x. And we can see that there is a repeated multiplied value. This case is x. So what you factor out, what we say factoring out, is x. And we still have inside x plus 5. Okay? And this, trust me, will be very useful, very useful when solving certain equations in the future. And this is only like the very basic level of factoring, where you do this like opposite distributive property, but there are more advanced ways that we're going to talk about in our further videos with quadratics. And yes, but this is just a very basic level what factoring means. And yes, hope you liked, and any questions, leave below. Thank you.